Being experienced in your field does not guarantee you can keep clients happy in your own business. And if you can't do that, no repeat business, no referrals, no growth. You're not building a business, you're slowly losing one. Or maybe you are keeping clients happy, but you're killing yourself in the process, working nights, weekends, holidays, missing your kids' soccer games just to keep everything afloat. That's not a business either. This video walks you through a complete system to deliver projects properly so your clients stay, refer you, and your business grows without burning yourself out. You'll also get the exact templates and resources I used to deliver over 600 projects and built an 8-figure consulting firm that I eventually sold to a global media giant. If you're new here, I'm Ferris. Let's step on the mat. Let's help you build. We'll go from pre-sales to delivery to retention to scaling. Pre-sales, the foundation. Most new consultants think that the delivery starts when the contract is signed. It doesn't. What you say in your sales conversations, what you include in your proposal, and how you actually deliver the work, those are not 3 separate things. That is one continuous system. Your conversations and your proposal should clearly lay out what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and what the client needs to do on their end. But when you're just starting out, or when you're struggling with sales, you're hungry. You want the deal. You want the cash flow. So what do? You make decisions that will make your life very hard when it is time to deliver what you sold. Scoping. You say yes to an aggressive timeline or vague requirements just to get a signed contract. You close the deal and celebrate, then reality hits. You can't deliver against your milestones, or the scope is so fuzzy that the client starts asking for everything, the full package, all the bells and whistles, which ends up taking you twice as long to complete and quickly eats up your margin. So how do you fix this? The fix is simple: a clear sales proposal. At a minimum, your proposal needs to clearly define scope, what's included and what's not included, deliverables, pricing and payment terms, timeline, and client dependencies. No ambiguity, no assumptions. I won't spend a lot of time on proposals in this video, as I covered it in detail in the Ultimate Guide to Winning Proposals. Check the link in the description. Internal handoff. Now, the second issue in pre-sales is just as important, and most consultants miss it. They don't fully understand buyer psychology after the deal is signed. And that leads to early dissatisfaction, in a few cases, termination of the engagement. Definitely not where I want you to be. Here's what's happening on the client side. Before signing, the client is evaluating you, they're cautious. After signing, psychologically, they shift, they're committed internally. Expectations go up, attention goes up, and patience drops. So a couple of days go by and they haven't heard from you, they don't know what happens next, and they start wondering, did we make the right call? Did we hire the right consultant? And just like that, before you've even done any real work, you've already lost momentum. How do you fix this? A formal internal handoff. A handoff from the sales team to the delivery team. Even if it's just you, you need to sit down and conduct a structured internal handoff session. Why? Because sales and delivery are different roles. In sales, you're focused on winning trust. In delivery, you want to focus on execution and managing expectations. Let me walk you through what an internal handoff looks like. Sales to delivery handoff. And I used a very simple project. You're building a website for a local restaurant. So you capture the client data, their name, the contract value, who's the primary contact person. At times, The person you end up working with in delivery is different than the person who signed the contract. So mark this down here. Then the business objectives of the project. And then we come to the scope and deliverables section. In this case, we have 3 deliverables, and we also listed what's not included, assumptions and dependencies. You cannot get your work done for a website, for a restaurant, without having the menu items, photos, logo, all that good stuff. And then, and this is really an important section, client insights. This is your observations of the client and how they work, and you want to jot this down so you communicate and execute and you deliver according to the client's preferences and sensitivities. For example, our friend here, the restaurant owner, Tony, he likes things simple and clean. He also gets overwhelmed if you get very technical. So don't get technical with Tony. And then he prefers phone, not email for communication. So the goal here is to collect as much context as possible and jot it down so that you remember it when you are delivering the service. I've included this template in the description. Click on the link below, make a copy and use it for your next deal. By the way, when you make your own copies of the templates in this playbook, keep your file structure organized. Create a dedicated delivery folder under each client of yours so everything is centralized and easy to access. In the future, when you want to refer back to these documents, they'll be easy to find. And also when you have contractors or team members in the future trying to figure out what you sold and what you delivered, this folder structure will be super helpful. Now, this internal handoff should happen as soon as the client gives the verbal agreement that the contract is on the way. This way, you're prepared to immediately start onboarding the client as soon as you received that signed contract. What is onboarding? A clear, structured message that tells the client, here's what happens next, here's the timeline, and here's when you'll hear from me next, or maybe hear from my team. This can be a structured email, a short Loom video, or a simple onboarding deck. Template it, reuse it, improve it over time. Because those first few hours and days after signing, that is when trust is either reinforced or quietly starts to erode. 63% of customers consider the onboarding experience when deciding whether to stay long-term. And here's a pro tip. When it comes to servicing clients, you'll hear different terms used: delivery, service, implementation, fulfillment. I use them interchangeably. They all point to the same thing. Your job is to take a promise made during the sale and turn it into a measurable result. Project management, execution mastery. While you don't need a fancy project management certification to manage projects and to get to those measurable results, you do need a practical execution system. Here's the cost of ignoring this. You win the client, you start the work, and slowly lose control of the engagement. Deadlines start slipping, and before you know it, instead of leading the project, you are chasing it. And if you think you can just figure it out as you go, the data says otherwise. According to McKinsey & Company, around 70% of projects fail to meet their original goals. Not because people lack intelligence or work ethic, but because they skip the fundamentals. Now, that statistic comes from large consultancies and complex projects, but the pattern applies at every level. Without a system, things break. New consultants rush through discovery, they don't properly plan the delivery, and they fail to identify risks early. And worse, they go quiet for weeks, working behind the scenes, only to come back with a big reveal that completely misses the mark. And now the client really starts questioning whether they made the right decision. You beat those odds by mastering a practical execution delivery system. Let's break it down. Initiation. It all starts with the external kickoff meeting, sometimes called initiation in the project management world. This is the phase where you take control of the engagement from day one. You identify all stakeholders, clarify scope, what's included and what's not, confirm assumptions explicitly, and align on timelines, communication cadence, and the client's responsibilities. Now, depending on the complexity of the engagement, this session may give you everything you need to begin delivery, or it may lead to additional discovery sessions. The goal here is clarity. For example, when you have stakeholders who are not part of the sales process, they'll come in with their own assumptions and interpretations of what the project is about. Another example is for anything that was discussed verbally over a quick email or a quick message, but did not make it into the signed contract. Let me walk you through how this happens in real life, and this is really critical as it is not uncommon for many details to fall through the cracks during contracting. Say while the engagement is being processed with the client's finance or legal team, your main point of contact, Matt, sends you a quick message. Hey, Nancy, one of the stakeholders, wants to confirm if she can add X to the deliverables. You respond, we can do it, but that would be a significant amount of work. It would require additional scoping and a new timeline, a new proposal. Matt understands. But that conversation stays between you and Matt. It never makes it to the not included section of the contract, and it never reaches Nancy. Now, after you start working with the stakeholders and you speak with Nancy, you and Nancy are operating with different expectations. So use the kickoff meeting to reset expectations and to recap the key elements of what you're delivering. And use this template to do it right. Let me walk you through it. Here we have the project kickoff checklist. And there are two sections in this document. One for planning for the meeting and one what to do in the meeting. And you'll see some common things. Meeting time, is it on-site or online? And if it's on-site, do you need specific security clearance to enter the building? Is there a meeting room reserved? And if it's on-site, make sure your main point of contact sets you up for success. So if you need internet access or security clearance, or if you're presenting to more than 2 people, request a large screen. Basically here, you list everything you need to make sure the meeting goes well. Remember, your main point of contact, they already know you. They've established trust and rapport with you, and you've done the same. But now there are new stakeholders. So when you meet them for the first time, you want to leave a very good first impression. And this is what this template helps you achieve. All the mistakes I made when I was presenting to customers, I've captured that here and turned it into a checklist for your project and for your delivery. And then at the meeting, you introduce your team, and the stakeholders are introduced to you with their functions and roles and what part of the project they'll be involved in, and then start setting expectations about what will happen in this project. So I won't go through the entire list here. We covered it earlier in the video, but this is what you want to use for your service and for your delivery. And after you use this template for a few times, tweak it, refine it, customize it so it works well for your service and for your delivery. And if you're looking for a sample slide deck to use in the meeting, check out the template I have here for you. This is for a cybersecurity preparedness project. So typical stuff, your meeting agenda, the team, introduce the stakeholders, project overview, project objectives, and then a project timeline. Even if it's not finalized, list what you had in the contract, and based on input from the stakeholders in the meeting, you tell them that we will refine this timeline and get back to you with the final one, and then you identify the next steps. Now, I know I'm going through a lot of templates and worksheets and concepts in this playbook, but it's an ultimate guide. Don't rush it. Take your time, make your own copy of the resources, and apply what matters. A pro tip here, if your client is local, encourage an in-person kickoff. Even if you have to travel a bit, it can be well worth it, especially if the project is substantial and the client has potential for future work. When you meet clients in person, you pick up information you simply can't capture over Zoom. I used to tell my consultants the walk from the front door to the meeting room That walk alone can reveal insights about the organization that are worth their weight in gold. The in-person meeting also gives you the opportunity to strengthen relationships, not just with your primary contact, but with the other stakeholders as well. If your client is the one actually requiring the travel, especially if it's frequent or long distance, make sure those costs are addressed upfront in your proposal, either bundled into your pricing or reimbursed separately. Once you've gathered requirements from the kickoff meeting and any additional discovery meetings, you move into the second phase, planning. This is where you break the work into phases or milestones, identify dependencies, and anticipate where scope might try to expand. I also recommend you build buffer time into your schedule. This way you can absorb the unknowns because something will change. It always does. You want it to be flexible, but not at the expense of your margin. I'll walk you through a sample project plan in a minute, but first, here's a pro tip. A quick principle to keep in mind. Complexity dictates formality. A small $500 project for a small business might only require a simple email agreement and a quick invoice. But as the client's size and engagement complexity increase, so should your level of process, documentation, and structure. You should have this plan prepared ahead of signing the contract, and then after the kickoff, you can customize it depending on what you heard from the client. So start simple. And if you're looking for a project plan template, I have one for you. Check out the link in the description. Let me walk you through it. So you'll see here in column D, I have the phase of the project: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, closure, task, the description of the task, who owns this task, start date, end date, status, not started, in progress, completed, ongoing, and then dependencies, and then any risks and notes. Again, feel free to expand on this, to shrink this, depending on the complexity of the project, the service, and the needs of the client. But start with this, don't over-engineer it, start simple, and then grow and add complexity as needed. The third phase is execution. This is where many consultants lose momentum. Instead of working in isolation and aiming for a big reveal, you want to document your work continuously and maintain visibility with the client. More importantly, you want to create early wins, small, tangible pieces of value delivered quickly. That creates momentum and reinforces that the engagement is moving in the right direction. For example, in the website that you're developing for Tony, the restaurant owner we talked about earlier, instead of waiting weeks to show the full website, you might deliver a clean, mobile-friendly menu page in the first few days. The client immediately sees progress and value. Before we move on to the next section, a pro tip: scope creep. When you're in the thick of execution, the client asks for just one more thing. It sounds small, reasonable, even harmless, but these requests compound quickly. This is where you go back to your contract and kickoff agreement. You can absolutely say yes, just be aware of the impact on your time, effort, and cost. With that, we're now happily executing within scope, but things rarely go according to plan. That is why the next phase of project management is critical. Monitoring. Projects rarely fail suddenly, they fail gradually when no one is paying close attention. You need to track progress against milestones, stay aware of internal, client-side, and external risks, and address blockers early. Active feedback loops are key here, not just for progress updates, but for managing expectations and resolving tension. Now, if your service spans more than a couple of weeks, I highly recommend you set up a progress report. And if you haven't done one of those in the past, guess what? I have a template for you. The link is in the description. The weekly progress report. You'll notice here there are two tabs, one which is a template, and then one, the template with sample data. So you start off with key highlights, then the project status, we're on time, we're a bit delayed, we're ahead of schedule, and then the weekly accomplishments, activity 1, 2, and 3, and then any metrics and performance if it makes sense for the service that you're offering. Let's say in the sample data here, let me show you exactly what I mean by metrics and performance. This is a social media campaign, so obviously it's very easy to report on impressions and clicks and comments and conversion and lead generation. And if your service doesn't have data around metrics and performance that you can report on weekly, that's okay. Just remove this section. Also talk about challenges and solutions, and then next week's focus. And this is really important, especially if you have dependencies on the client. If you cannot get your job done until the client takes action on certain things, highlight that the project will be on hold until you have access to systems or whatever that action is that the client has to take. A note here worth repeating: as I walk through these examples and these templates, don't worry about capturing everything right now. Pause the video, review the template, and make your own copy. This is meant to be practical, not just something you watch once. And here's a pro tip before I move to the next section. When something goes wrong, and it will, leave your ego at the door. Don't rush to defend your position, and don't look for someone to blame, because not every issue is on your side. Sometimes the delay is on the client. Sometimes data is missing. Sometimes stakeholders aren't aligned. But the moment you turn it into your fault versus their fault, you've already lost control of the engagement. Fight the temptation to say, we couldn't move forward because your team did not send us the data on time. Sounds accurate, also sounds like you're pointing fingers. Instead, say something like this: it looks like we hit a delay due to the missing data from multiple stakeholders. Even better, you can say, we identified a dependency on data that slowed progress. To avoid this going forward, I recommend we centralize inputs through one owner and set a 48-hour turnaround. That will keep us on track for the next milestone. This way, you shifted the conversation to root cause and resolution. And talking about root causes, ask why 5 times. Go past the surface issue, identify what actually broke, and fix the underlying process, and then move on. The next section, client satisfaction. Now that I've made the point about scoping and avoiding overcommitment to keep the project on track, I'm going to say that you also need to stay flexible. Successful businesses make and keep an unspoken pledge to delight and empower clients in the way that makes the most sense for the clients and provides them with the greatest benefit. I'm including client satisfaction here as a phase within project management, but in reality, it spans the entire client relationship. The kind of client satisfaction I'm describing will require some flexibility on your part as the consultant and service provider. At no time is this more critical than when you're just starting out and too vulnerable to afford any kind of client dissatisfaction. You should treat each new client as a national treasure and bend over backwards to make them super happy. This might mean doing some things you normally wouldn't do as part of your delivery, putting up with some attitude, staying up late to meet a deadline. Let me tell you how that manifested for us in our early days. One of our early clients thought that because we developed websites, we could also do IT. Every time he had an issue with the Wi-Fi or anything technical, Ferris would get a call. One time he called and said, "Ferris, my fax machine is down." I had no idea what to do and I didn't know what to say, but I didn't turn him away. We had a high school student interning with us and he was very resourceful, so I sent him to the client's office and he fixed the fax machine. The client was thrilled. Now, as another facet to flexibility and client empowerment, never be guarded about your knowledge or your role. When a client wants to take on more responsibility and you don't see a great risk in that proposition, support it wholeheartedly. Even if it takes a few more hours on your part, give them the tools, training, and maybe additional consulting they need to be more independent. Now, our company didn't add fax machine maintenance to the list of services we offered. We weren't in any way looking to expand into that type of work, and I'm not recommending that you burn the midnight oil on an ongoing basis or take big new blocks of work without a new agreement. The whole point of scoping and project management is to avoid scrambling and to guard project profitability. But satisfying special requests for individual clients on a case-by-case basis can protect critical revenue. And a commitment to empower and delight every client positions you as a trusted go-to resource for new challenges that the client needs support with, which we will talk about more coming up. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. And if this client empowerment concept is of interest, I have a video just on that. Check out the link in the description. The next phase, closure. Finally, there's closure. This is the step most consultants rush or overlook. There should be a closure on two fronts, between you and the client and internally, especially if you're working with a team. For closure with the client, don't just send over the final deliverables and move on. Document the handoff properly, provide training and enablement, even if you did not explicitly include it in the proposal. Make sure the client can actually use what you've built. Close your project with the kind of empowerment we just talked about. And ask the client for feedback, which you can use in your internal closure processes. And if you're not sure how to ask for client feedback, I have a template for that. Check out the link in the description. So let me walk you through the client feedback questions. Again, this is pretty thorough. You don't have to use every question in here, but I've listed it so that you can pick the ones that are most relevant to your business and to the service that you are delivering. Now, you can send this in a document. I suggest you make it in a Google form. It's free, it's available. Or you can actually ask these questions in your meeting with the client once the project is completed. So the questions here are, you're asking about overall satisfaction, communication, project management, quality of deliverables, and the list goes on. Value for money, areas for improvement, and any additional comments. Again, you don't have to use all of these questions. Pick 4 or 5 that best fit your business and your service and put them in a Google form or ask the client when you are closing the project with them. 56% of consumers won't complain about a negative customer experience. They quietly switch to a competitor instead. So it is important to go out of your way to capture client feedback and ensure they're delighted. And when clients are delighted, this is the opportune time to ask for a testimonial as well as case studies. These types of social proof will help you close deals with other clients. And if you're not sure how to ask and collect case studies and testimonials, check out this resource. The link is in the description. Let's walk through it. How to collect and use case studies and testimonials to showcase client success. It's a long article, but it gives you everything you need to do to capture these testimonials and case studies. So here I cover why it's really important to build a diverse portfolio of proof. Clients love to see how you've helped other businesses succeed. You can leverage your past experience, of course. You can start small with a very small case study, not a problem. And then I go into how to secure case studies, how to simplify the process for the client, how to get their approvals. I go over how to frame the request so the client knows what's in it for them. All of that is here, including the structure of a case study, as well as a sample case study that you can download and use right away. In addition, ask for referrals. Happy clients are often glad to refer other clients to you. As a matter of fact, 92% is the percentage of consumers who trust recommendations from peers or other clients over traditional advertising. So that was on closure with the client. Now for internal closure, understand that every project contains lessons you can carry into the next one. Mistakes to avoid, successes to replicate, and processes to standardize. So take the time to run an internal project retrospective. Step back, review what worked, what didn't, and where you can improve. The observations that you make in your internal review will help you identify the part of your work to systematize, which we will talk about coming up. And a side note here that project retrospective is also sometimes referred to as an evaluation or, more bluntly, a postmortem. Let me walk you through this process. Effective project retrospective, how to evaluate and improve your projects. What is a project retrospective? Why it matters, the importance of it to improve your future project, to reinforce what works, to address failures, and then the key components, how to gather information, how to evaluate, how to analyze, all that is in here for you. And guess what? I also have a template that you can use right away. And here's the template. You can use this as an individual or as a team. It becomes even more important when you have other team members supporting you in delivering the service. So include all the folks who were involved in this project, and then all the preparation that you've done ahead of this meeting, all the documents that should be reviewed, and then any survey or feedback that you've collected, and then the meeting time, who's going to be facilitating, including the agenda. So people attending the meeting, whether it's internal for you or whether you're inviting suppliers or potentially clients to give you feedback, all of that should be in the agenda so people are aware of what will be discussed. Now, in terms of the discussion topics, key achievements, everybody wants to talk about what went well, challenges and issues. People don't want to talk about this stuff, but it's important to identify what went wrong so you can address the issue and go down to the root causes and fix them. And then anything around process and workflow, and then lessons learned. And then a really important point here, you as a founder, you set the tone for the organization and for this meeting. The idea is not to point fingers. The idea is to get to the bottom of any issues and address the root causes so they won't happen again in the future. And also to document the successes so that we can repeat them in the future. Wow, that's a lot. I know, but that is your delivery playbook. So far, we've covered what you need to do in pre-sales, plus the 6 phases of servicing your client. This is what it'll take to deliver your contractual obligation on time, with quality, and with some profit. But before we move on from the client you've just delivered to, there's an opportunity for growth that might be hiding in plain sight. Land and expand beyond the first engagement. The project is closed, but the business relationship shouldn't be. A lot of consultants treat delivery like the finish line. They complete the work, send the final files, maybe get a thank you, and then move on to chase the next client. You definitely do want to use the experience, testimonials, and case studies from one client to land deals with other clients, but abandoning the client you've just worked with is a mistake, because what you've really built over the course of that engagement is not just a deliverable, you've built trust, context, and access. And those are far more valuable than any single project. Here's the reality. It costs significantly more to acquire a new client than to keep an existing one, 5 times as much. The clients you just worked with now understand your value and they trust you, and most consultants do nothing with that. This is where the concept of land and expand comes in, because once the initial project ends, new problems don't stop appearing. And if you're not the one identifying and solving these problems, someone else will. You need to approach every engagement with a land and expand mindset. Post-project, stay engaged, maintain the relationship, check in periodically, and stay top of mind. But more importantly, continue to think like a partner, not a vendor. Look for additional challenges in their business that you are well positioned to solve. Connect your work to broader outcomes and show them what's next. Let me walk you through an example. Let's say you've improved the reporting and report automation for a client. The next step is using insights from these reports to help clients make better decisions. And you can say, if we optimized this process, the next step is scaling that process across other teams. This is where you move from project-based work to ongoing value. Instead of one-off engagements, start positioning monthly retainers, ongoing advisory, continuous optimization, or support. Show them what's next, not in a pushy way, but as a natural progression. Here's what we've done, here's the impact, and here's where we go from here. That is how you turn one project into a long-term relationship. And if you've delivered real value, and this is important, don't be shy at this stage. Pillar number 4, scaling delivery from operator to owner. Nail it and scale it. This is the title of a book, has a nice ring to it, but you need to have systems in place to support it. In the beginning, you're doing everything yourself. Sales, delivery, communication, admin, every part of the business runs through you and you're doing things manually. And at first, that works. You're close to the work, you are responsive, and the quality is high. And at the same time, you're delighting your clients. They come back to you with new projects and they're referring you to their industry friends. All this is great, just as it should be. But over time, if you want to grow, you'll hit a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day and only so many clients you can handle. And if you don't start systematizing, leveraging tech and AI, and delegating, you're not building a business. You're staying stuck in the business. Let's break this down into 3 parts. Systematizing. Before you hire anyone, before you add tools, you need systems. Because if your work lives in your head, you can't scale it. The solution is operational efficiency. That means standardized processes, clear communication, reusable templates. Yes, it sounds boring, but this is what protects your time, your quality, and your sanity. These systems turn your work from something you do into something that can be repeated. And now that you have structure, you can actually leverage technology. As I mentioned earlier, a project retrospective, including client feedback, is a great source to capture process improvement recommendations. The next one, tech and AI. If you want to scale efficiently, you need the right tech stack. Not 100 tools and not the fanciest tools in the beginning, just the right ones. Project management, communication, documentation, and of course, AI. I'll talk about AI in a minute, but let's first cover some low-cost or no-cost essential tech for service delivery and client management. You don't need everything on day one. Start simple and expand as your needs grow. Project management, track work and deadlines, Asana, ClickUp, Trello, Notion. Communication, client and internal, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. Documentation to centralize knowledge, Notion or Google Docs. Meeting intelligence, notes and summaries, what comes native with Gmail, Gemini, or what comes native with Zoom or Otter or Fireflies. Meeting scheduler, Calendly or what's built into CRMs. Diagramming, Google Drawing, Google Stitch, Canva, and others. CRM to manage leads and clients. HubSpot, Salesforce for small businesses, and Pipedrive. Let me walk you through this resource. It's an article on essential software for consultants to elevate your workflow with these tools, with the tech stack. In this article, I didn't just list the tools, I included information about pricing, key features, pluses, barriers, pros and cons. So go to the section that you need help in, whether it's project management or task management or communication or video conferencing, and understand the various features and the pros and cons and pricing, and then make a better decision with the information that you have. And of course, on pricing, always check with the prices on the vendor's website, as pricing might have changed since we published this article. The goal here is not to become a tool expert. The goal is to build a system where information is organized, communication is clear, and execution is fast. Start simple, expand as needed. Now, in terms of AI, of course, you should be using AI and AI assistants for speed and automation, tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. In addition, there's a difference between AI first and AI enhanced. AI first means you're building AI solutions for clients. But for most of you, the real opportunity is being AI enhanced. You don't replace your expertise, you amplify it. Practically, that means using AI to transcribe and summarize meetings, using AI to analyze data faster, using it to draft proposals and reports that you refine, and also other parts of the servicing process. You're not outsourcing your thinking, you're accelerating your execution. And with tech and AI, you now have systems and tools in place. Now you're ready for the hardest part. Delegation. At some point, you have to bring in help. Contractors, part-timers, and eventually full-time employees. And this is where most consultants get stuck, because if you're competent, and you are, letting go feels risky. You start thinking, no one can do this as well as I can. It is faster if I just do it myself. So you either keep everything and burn out, or you bring people in, but you micromanage everything. You review every detail. You correct everything. Nothing moves without you. So now you have a team, but you're still stuck. Let me tell you that the growth rate for companies led by high delegators is 112% higher than those companies whose leaders struggle to delegate. Now, to delegate effectively, you need three things: a clear system, clear expectations, and the right people. As always, start small, delegate simple, repeatable tasks first, then expand as your systems get stronger. And when you hire employees, be very intentional. Your early hires will shape your business. Don't just hire people to complete tasks. Avoid task rabbits. Look for A players, those who will knock down these initial simple tasks, but also show the attitude and aptitude for much more. People who think and take ownership, understand outcomes, not just tasks. Your role is not to control everything. Your role is to provide the framework, to set expectations, and to give them more autonomy than supervision. Then let them execute. So if you want help here, I've included 2 separate worksheets. Check the links in the description. The first one is on delegation. Let me walk you through it. What I want you to do is to jot down the things that you're good at, and then the things you're not good at. And then in the other column, I have the things you should be doing, and then you scroll down, the things you should not be doing. And then to capture all this information, I actually have a worksheet for you. For a week or 2, jot down everything that you do. Is it admin? Is it operations? Is it marketing? Is it client delivery? And identify, is it something I'm good at and I should be doing, or something I'm good at but I shouldn't be doing, or something I'm bad at but I shouldn't be doing, or I'm bad at but I should be doing. So if you capture this information, this worksheet will summarize where your time is spent. And based on this analysis, you'll come up with an action plan to improve how you manage your time and how you optimize all that energy that you're putting in your business. Here's a quick example. Things you're good at and should not be doing. You're very good at editing videos, but that's taking a lot of time. Outsource that headache. Things you're not good at and should not be doing. You're doing your own bookkeeping, you're doing graphic design, outsource it. And then things you're not good at and should be doing. Maybe you're not good at sales. You gotta learn sales. Maybe you're not good at managing people. That's something new for you. Learn about, because it's strategic, it's important for the business. And the second template is on identifying A players. Let me walk you through it. 5 questions to assess top 1% A players. 1, ask how far they've traveled. It's not just about top grades from top schools. What is it that they've done? Maybe they had to do 3 jobs on the side while they're going to school, and they still managed to finish with a good grade. Also, ask about what's the most challenging problem they faced. Ask them to share examples of how they embodied and applied a thinker-doer mindset to exceed expectations. Are they hard workers and care about constantly learning new skills? And then have they helped others in their jobs? These questions and others will help you identify A players that will help take your business to the next level. This is the shift from doing the work to building the system that delivers the work. The shift from a business operator to a business owner. We just covered the full delivery playbook. If you want to learn how to start your consulting business right, structure your offer, and get clients, watch my ultimate guide to starting a consulting business.